So let's start with an important question. When do you actually need landing pages? We all know what a landing page is, but why can't you just use your website, right? After all, you're getting already great and organic traffic there. I get that, I understand that, but we see that landing pages offer um, a lot of advantages in specific situations. For example, if you're running a targeted marketing campaign and you are directing traffic through paid ads, for example, maybe you have something on Google or you using social media and you want to focus your visitors' attention on one specific offer. This also applies, of course, for seasonal or themed campaigns like Black Friday deals, Christmas promotions. Yes, Christmas is around the corner, so also those promotions will pop up again, or any special events, right? So with the landing page, you can tailor your message to a specific audience or customer segment, and you can make the content more relevant and targeted. Landing pages therefore help you to address the specific needs and interests of this customer group, and they create a more focused experience. Because on a regular website, you may need to convey more general information, but on a landing page, you can strip away any distraction. Additionally to that, tracking and measuring the success of your campaign is much easier on a single page than on a whole website because you know exactly where you get your traffic from. You can see where visitors are dropping off and how many leads you are creating in the end. And therefore, it is also much easier to experiment, to run A/B tests, to see what versions or what approaches generate more leads. And of course, leads in this case, when I'm talking about leads, this can be anything that you define as your campaign goal. So maybe you want to get more potential customers, or maybe you want to have signups for your newsletter, or maybe you are running a recruiting campaign and you want to have candidates apply for a job. So whatever your campaign goal is, this is basically your lead, right? So now that we understand why landing pages are so useful, let's discuss also how to create one. Where do we even start? We broke it down into a few core elements that we feel are really necessary for a successful landing page, because these are the fundamentals as they align with the persuasion principles that ultimately lead to higher conversion rates. So let's dive in. You see here an example of a hero section because this is the first part that your visitor will land on. It's on the top of your page, and it basically is the first impression. And we all know how important the first impression is. So you really want to captivate your visitor right away. Because if your visitors are coming from an ad from social media, for example, they land on your page, and within split seconds, they will decide if they want to stay on your page to get to know more, or maybe they will just drop off if they are not convinced. So a well-designed hero section should really highlight key information, and it should give your visitors all the essential information at one glance. In our example, starting here, for example, with the right side, you see here an image, which could be, well, it could be an image, it could be a video, it could be a GIF. It doesn't really matter. It's just really important that the graphic is, that the graphic is relevant to your brand, to your company, and also to the content you are having on your landing page, right? So authenticity is really key here, and you can't be too generic. You shouldn't use just the stock photo just to fill in the gap here. You should really try to have here something that speaks to your audience. Above that, you see here our logo. The logo could sit anywhere on the hero section, really, but it's important that it is there, that it's there at the first glance, because you also want to make sure that your visitors know where they are right now. They're coming from an ad and they land on the landing page. They connect the two logos, they connect to your company, therefore they know they are at the right spot. But the most crucial element, of course, for the hero section is your unique selling proposition, your USP. Um, this includes elements like the headline, for example, which is the first thing your visitor will really read, and it needs to be concise and impactful. It's really not the place for any long-winded explanation. You can add a supporting subheading for more detail, but you should try to keep it brief. In our example, it is not that brief. We have quite a lot of text here, which is fine because it worked for us, but you might want to try different length and different things here just to make sure that whatever you put there is important, right? Because you should also keep in mind the longer the copy, the less people are really going to read it. So the important things should really stick out. And then the last thing on your hero section is the call to action, the CTA. This isn't really part of your unique selling proposition, obviously, but it is super important to provide an opportunity for visitors to take action directly from your hero section. So if they come from an ad, maybe they are already convinced this is exactly what they were looking for, and you want them to be able to convert quickly. So having a CTA here is really essential. This is a second example here of a hero section. Basically, it's the same structure. We just want to really show you that it works no matter which industry you're from, what your use case is, what you're trying to achieve. Basically, the hero section can work for any for any company in that way. And you don't really have to have it in that structure. Maybe you don't want to have the image on the right-hand side. Maybe you just want to have a nice background image and you want to have the copy like on the full hero. Everything really works, and you should also obviously look at other pages, get inspired. That's completely fine. To just grab some inspiration from other pages. All right, the next core element, features and benefits, and this is something that can set your company apart even further from your competitors, right? Because here it's really important that you speak to your target audience. You want to highlight what really makes your product or your service stand out. So obviously a feature describes the product or the service, while the benefits explains why those features matter to your potential customers. We know that people often make decisions based on emotions, so focusing solely on features only appeals really to the rational part of the brain. Highlighting the benefits taps into the emotional side, so making your offer way more appealing. And showcasing both on your landing page really helps to build trust and convinces your visitors to take action, and hopefully automatically increasing your conversion rate. So this section is really important, and what you always should keep in mind, you should write from your customer's perspective. Really step into their shoes and write it in a way that they can see the value for them. And if you keep that in mind, the section will practically write itself. And by doing this, you obviously will build a huge trust point with your visitors. Speaking of trust, social media is another critical factor on your landing page. And this can come in various forms. We have here four examples. So you can have, for example, a testimonial. So a testimonial is basically a customer quote where you have the name, you have the company, you have the role of the person, and ideally also have a photo, because seeing a real person behind the quote really adds a lot of credibility. So this definitely has a huge impact on the credibility of your social proof. You should also always show your customer logos. And of course, the bigger the brand name here, the better. But you don't have to think about like global brands. Maybe you have some customers that are well known within their industry, and you definitely know that your potential other customers know the company. So that's completely fine. So it doesn't have to be something that is recognized by everyone from every industry, because it's important is that it is important for your audience, right? So anything that you have to show here, you should really show those logos. Then another thing is, of course, any certifications which you can have, any awards you maybe have won. Maybe you are a digital marketing agency and you created an ad campaign for a customer and you've won a prize. Show it here. Really brag. Show what you got. Just make sure it is relevant for your business. And then, of course, reviews. You can have Google reviews. You can use platforms like Capterra or Trustpilot or even Product Hunt. Anything that you know that your audience is looking at, add those positive reviews here. And something that, of course, goes for the whole landing page, but for social proof even more. Always be authentic. Faking social proof can destroy trust much faster than it takes to build it. So yeah, just make sure that you have um, everything legit there. If you are lacking testimonials, reach out to your happy customers. From our experience at Heyflow, they are all very willing to, yeah, to give you some shout out, and I'm pretty sure that you can have the same. And the last thing, I already mentioned it in the hero section, is the call to action. So the call to action should really prompt visitors to perform a specific action. You need to be very clear about your objective here. So what exactly do you want your users to do? Um, the CTA should be well defined, and it should help like guide user through the action, and just really has to be clear what you want them to do. So how you name your CTA really depends on your goal. Are you aiming for newsletter signups? Maybe you want to get people to try your product, or maybe you want them to request a personalized offer. This should be reflected on your CTA. These here are just a few examples. There are countless possibilities, and we are going to talk about the CTA also in our best practice section, because it's a really important element on the landing page. All right. Yet now we are coming to best practices, and I want to start with a well-known concept: above and below the fold. This term comes from the publishing world, where there was a literal fold in the newspaper page. So obviously everything above that was above the fold, and everything when you had to open the page was below the fold. And this concept still applies in the web design. So meaning above the fold is everything that is visible for the user without having to scroll. So the key takeaway here is that basically your hero section is the above the fold part. That makes it even more crucial than I initially said, right? Because it really has to be on point and showcase your value proposition. So you have to have the most essential information in your hero section. You have to have a appealing visual. You should always have a call to action, which should be visible above the fold, along with the big and clear headline, and the essential information, basically. On the other hand, it's really important to not overload the hero section, and this can be really tricky. You need to strike a balance here. So you have to provide enough relevant information without overwhelming the visitor. So that's not so easy to do. Um, then on the other hand, you also don't want to overload it in the sense of having too of a heavy visual, for example, because it can impact your page speed. And we know exactly from ourselves that we have no patience when we are surfing the internet. So if something is not loading immediately, it will definitely affect the drop-off rate, the bounce rate. So another thing is you want to make sure that your users want to scroll more, right? They want to get more information. So you have to have like an indication that more content follows after the hero sections. Otherwise, users might not feel inclined to scroll. So instead of like having the whole hero section filling up the above the fold section, you might want to have like visual cues or a shorter hero section, so visitors see that there's more to explore. And we have here a great example to showcase what I mean. So in our don't example, you see that the hero section is basically taking up the whole screen. And I'm not really sure if there's something following or not. I mean, it's a landing page, so I know that there's something more, but I don't really feel engaged to scroll. And on the left-hand side, in our example with the recruiting page here, so if I'm landing on this landing page, and I can see, oh, there's the next section about open positions, which is interesting for me because, yes, I want to see if there is an open role which fits my expertise. So obviously, I'm going to scroll. So you really have to also put yourself into your audience shoes and just understand what information they would like to see next after the hero section. All right, let's come to some design tips. color. Color is, of course, a really effective way to navigate your user through the page. With the color, obviously, you should stick to your brand's identity for consistency across all materials. So it's really important that you not suddenly have a new look and feel of what visitors might already know from you. You should always ensure a strong contrast between the background and the text for readability on all devices and by all users. And you should use an accent color to highlight key elements. So in the example, green is our accent color, and you can see in our don't example that green is used all over the place. And honestly, my eye doesn't really know where to look first. So my attention is not drawn to the most important key element. On the do side, our most important key element is the CTA. And to be honest, this should be always your focus when you want to draw attention to your landing page. So the accent color should be reserved for really important elements only. For example, highlighting a bit of a text or your CTA. And here I definitely have a much more focused attention on what's important. The same principle applies to typography because you really should choose fonts that are easy to read, that is nice for the eye and also navigates the eye. So fonts like sans serif fonts, for example, Arial or Helvetica, are often great for digital environments because they are very clear to read. You shouldn't use more than 2 to 3 fonts. So you should have one for your headings, maybe one for your body text, and if you want so, maybe one for accents, but that should be really it. And you should make sure that you use different sizes and weights to also build a clear hierarchy between a heading and your body text so that the most important information really stands out. Spacing or white space is also a nice element to play with because it can avoid clutter and emphasizes the key elements on your page. You should make sure that there's enough space between your headings and your paragraphs and each section so that not everything is too crowded, because it really helps to navigate the eye when there is a bit of a gap between the sections. You can also use alternating background colors, for example, or separators to define different sections. Um, Overall, we feel that typography and spacing are often really underestimated, although they can really play a key role in delivering a great user experience. And when it's done well, they significantly impact the effectiveness of your landing page. Another thing is consistency in your design. So you should keep your elements like fonts, color, layout, CTAs, all of this consistent throughout your page. This provides a clear and seamless experience for your visitors. A consistent experience means visitors are less distracted by changing styles or unexpected design elements, which then also, of course, can lead to longer visit durations and more interactions, which is what we want, right? We want the user to stay on the landing page and to take action. Um, and when looking at our example, of course, this consistency should already start before the landing page. So your ad creatives that you're using to drive the traffic to the landing page should be in the same design as your landing page. And it should really match the style to avoid confusion because you want your visitors to really know that they landed from the ad on the right landing page. So creating here the same style is really important. And of course, there are elements which can help you with that. It's your logo. It might be the visual, which is done in a similar style. You don't need to repeat the same copy which you have on your ad because you want to give more information, right? You want to use the momentum where you can share more relevant information. And then I mentioned it already, the CTA. It's such an important thing on your landing page, and the CTA should stand out immediately. It needs to be visible above the fold, so obviously in the hero section, but you should also place it throughout the page. So you have something in the on the top of the page, in the middle, and maybe at the end. You don't want to throw them and at each and every section, because you also don't want it to overwhelm your visitors. Um, and one tip, for example, is to place the CTA next to trust building elements. So, for example, you have a great testimonial section. A CTA below that could really help to convince your visitors to take action, because it automatically reduces the risk in them when they see, okay, others do trust you. I know those brands which are showcased here. They have great reviews. So yeah, I can also trust them. It really has a psychological effect, because it boosts the visitor's confidence. Um, yeah, and then of course the wording on your CTA should always focus on the user's benefit. So instead, for example, using just register now, you could use register for free, or get 30 days for free. You can also try to emphasize urgency. If it's, for example, a Black Friday deal, you could say secure 20% discount now, or anything that works for you. And also, of course, you should always keep in mind to optimize your CTA for mobile users. We have a tip here, is because with the mobile, you have to scroll much more than on a desktop. So you could try a sticky header, for example, like you see here in this example, because the sticky header means that the CTA follows around no matter in which section they are stuck right now. And yeah, you don't need to have too many CTAs, because it really helps helps the users to be able to find the CTA. And of course, talking about mobile optimization, you should really make sure that your landing page looks great on all devices, because nowadays a lot of our users are coming from smartphones, obviously. So you need to make sure that it looks great. Yeah, no matter how big the screen is. Thankfully, with Heyflow, it's really easy to check that, to see how your page looks. Jenna is going to show this to us in just a second. And of course, another thing is that you should really keep your page concise. Too much information can overwhelm your visitors. You should focus on what's essential, because in the end, your landing page is for exactly that purpose, right? You have a targeted audience here. You have a specific campaign which you are running, so you don't need to have an endless page. If you are using, for example, tools like heat maps, I can really recommend it. You will also see where your users are looking at the most, and you will really quickly see that you are losing a lot of eyes the longer the page basically is. So yeah, that's just a side tip as a tool maybe you want to try out. And of course, I mentioned it already, in between the presentation, keep optimizing and testing. Experiments are so important. You should always run A/B tests, because it's so easy with landing pages. You can really optimize them by just, for example, comparing different versions of headlines. You want to maybe test out different images for your hero section, or you want to try a different CTA label. Like, the possibilities are endless. We always recommend to run an EB test for at least 2 weeks, but it really depends also on the traffic you are getting. The more traffic you are getting, the more confident you can be after 2 weeks. If you're not getting that much traffic or responses to your landing page, maybe you want to also let it run a bit longer, because yeah, the more results you are getting, the more meaningful they are as well, right? And of course, when you are testing different things, make sure that you only test one element or one area at a time, because otherwise you can't really tell what made the difference in the end. So if you are, for example, changing the CTA label, only change the CTA label and see if more users are converting to leads, and then the rest you can test later on. All right, that was a lot of information. I hope that you sent in your questions in the Q&A. I'm happy to see what you would like to, would like to know more. But for now, I would love to hand over to Jenna to show us how everything works in Heyflow.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That was really great. So yeah, guys, I'm going to be showing you now some of the tips and tricks that Sarah's mentioned in the Heyflow app. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump in, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Perfect. So we're going to start actually with our hero section. And to accomplish that hero section, we're going to use something block called containers. Now, containers are a really great way to put multiple blocks together into one block. And really, this helps to kind of organize and categorize and really create more structure for your landing page. So here we have an example, an already built example of a container. And in that container, we have about 3 blocks. And this is an example of a very simple hero section using that container. And what's nice is you can really have a lot of accessibility in terms of, figuring out the width, the outer width, the inner width, aligning the content. You have your margins and paddings, and you can also have a play here in the layout of how it's going to look, whether you want to have, your containers in columns or if you want to have it in rows. And as you can see, currently we have this set up in rows. You can also change the gap. So if you wanted there to be more spacing between those blocks, you can also set that up. And you can also set a background color, a background image. You can add, a cover or a certain sizing for that position, and a style variant. Now, the style variant is available in the Agency of Business Plans, and it's really easy to just go into the design section and being able to kind of set up those style variants, which I can show you in a moment. So how do we build this? Let's jump into the actual builder. So now we have our blocks. Now we want to put everything into a container. So we're going to go into the block section, and we're going to type in container. Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to drag and drop the container at the top. And then it's really simple. We're just going to be dragging and dropping the other blocks into that container. So here we go. And we've brought everything in, but kind of looks a little funny, right? And this is where we need to kind of set how that container is going to look. So first thing I want to change, I want to change the inner width. Just want to give it a little bit more space in there. Now, the other thing I want to do is currently this container is set up to have a layout of columns, but I want to have a layer of rows. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change that to rows. Now, at the very bottom here, just to kind of go back for a second, you can also change the mobile layout. So for example, if I've set it for columns, but I want to, for mobile, have it set on rows, I can specifically set that up. So just to kind of give you an example of what that would look like, if I jump in here, it would show as rows. So just to know that there's kind of an easy way to change that mobile layout without having to take too much effort. It's a really nice thing to have. So here now I've kind of set up the structure of my column, but let's say I want to add a background image. I just want something that looks nice. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go and add this image to the background just to give it, just again, it's the hero section. It's above the fold. Not that all hero sections need to be, but just kind of making it a little bit more engaging, a little bit more dynamic. And as well, we still have that apply now and CTA button in there. So just really quickly looking at this kind of simple container, but now I actually want to jump into something a little bit more advanced. So here's more of an advanced hero section, if you will. And if you take a look, you see that we have 2 container blocks. And for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to refer to this big container block as the parent container block and the smaller one as the child container block, because the child one is going inside of the parent container. So why do we have a container within a container? Really, really simple. So this parent container is set up to be in columns because that's how we want to structure it. And as you can see here, it's set up in columns. However, if we look to the left side of the hero section, we see that it's actually set up in rows. So we actually needed another container in order to set the layout in rows, but to keep the overall container in a column setting. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to build this. And again, it is more advanced, but still pretty simple to get started. So again, we're doing the drag and drop. And I'm actually going to go ahead, I'm going to bring that child container in now as well. So what I need to do is now bring pretty much all the blocks except for the image block into the child container. And to do that, again, really simple. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to bring that in. So with Heyflow, it's super simple. You don't really have to do too much. And now we have everything in there, almost. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this to rows, but still it's not perfect yet because we need to bring the image block in. And now it also doesn't look really great because we have to fix the width. So once that's set up, now it's looking exactly like it was looking on the third screen. But maybe we want to add a background color. Again, just make it a little bit more dynamic, a little bit different. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go and add a gray background, just as an example. So again, really a lot of play around here. If you want to change the style variants, which again, you can set up in the design section, you can go ahead and you can have a play there and, just kind of test and see what looks best for you and, what look you're going for essentially. So again, really easy to set this up. You can, again, change the mobile layout. So if we wanted to switch this layout as we have it in columns now, if we wanted to switch that to rows, this is what it would look like in a mobile version. So again, it's really simple. You don't have to change too much. And really, really, really helpful to have those containers because again, it just creates a more structured look. And essentially you can build what looks like your website on a Heyflow landing page. So moving on, we're going to jump into the features and benefits as Sarah was discussing previously. So unfortunately, some of my images aren't showing up due to my internet connection. So I do apologize for that, but you can sort of see that we have, there should be an image set here and such. Now, regarding features and benefits, we want to really, the landing page is a great way to really demonstrate what those features and benefits are. And one of the best ways to do this is using the display blocks to accomplish this. So one of the blocks that I want to touch on just now is our list block. A list block is such a great way to really, showcase the benefits of your offering, your company, who you guys are, what you guys are offering, etc. It's quite dynamic, it's visually appealing, and yeah, it just looks really nice. And here's an example of what that looks like. And again, all you're doing is you're dragging and dropping this into the builder section. Now, what's really great about this is you do have a lot of editing capabilities within the list. So for example, you have your headline, which has, the most important information. You can italicize that, you can underline it, you can change the text color. You can also add a link in as well. And then here at the bottom, you have additional information. So this is your headline and this is more of your text to really kind of follow up what that headline is pertaining to. And again, you have the different editing options here as well. Aside from that, in the appearance section, you can also decide how many columns you want to have on a desktop versus a mobile. So currently on a mobile, this is what the list would look like. But let's say you want to have it set as, 2 columns or even 3 columns, you can do that as well. And again, it's just around having a play, what works best, what looks, good for you guys. And then as well, also working on those columns on the desktop, you also have the ability to animate these images. And what's really great is that you can go ahead and you can upload, you can select your own icon, you can select an emoji, and you can upload your own image as well. So you can really have a play around there. Now, a little sneak peek because you guys are, joining our webinar today, but we will have a feature available in the not too distant future where you can upload your images and there'll actually be a section where you can select all the images that you have uploaded. So this is just an example of it. So just wanted to quickly show you guys that, but this is something that will be coming in the future. Cool. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is the checklist. So checklists, again, really great as a way to provide really quick point form notes, quick little snippets of information. And again, in here, you can also change the icon. You can change the icon color, because so much of this is about being on brand. And, we want to make sure that you have that ability to set it up as you see fit. So you can also change the layout. So in this layout, we're doing columns, but in the other, we're doing rows, but in another section, which I'll show you in a moment, we're setting it up as columns. So you do have quite a bit of functionality in there and adaptability as well. The other display block that I wanted to go over is the accordion block. So the accordion block is a really great way to feature, like frequently asked questions, or just provide additional information that, your users coming to this landing page might be thinking, might be asking, or just might, maybe some common questions that you typically see that could really help the user to be able to kind of go through the flow, feel comfortable and confident in putting in their information. So this is a really powerful block that I highly encourage you guys to use on your landing page. And again, you can kind of set up the different settings here where you can allow for multiple opens. If you don't want animation, you can also set a default option as well. And just to kind of give you guys an idea, it's just kind of looking something like this. And again, you also have the editing capabilities to go in and make any changes that you like and add any terms and such. And what's also great is you can change the icon. So if you don't want the plus, you can also do a pointing arrow, or you can just hide in general any sort of icon that's there. So this is quite a powerful way. And again, these are about really showing those features and benefits using the blocks available. Now, and here at the bottom, you can see an example of a checklist that's in a column form. So you can either have it in rows or columns, however you see fit. So now we've talked a little bit about the features and benefits. What I'd like to now jump into is a little bit about the brand awareness, because brand awareness, corporate identity is really key. Having things, as your website and your landing page, having those colors, having those fonts, having spacing, etc., having that kind of all aligned is very, very important. So one of the things that you can do to accomplish this is using something that we call presets. So I'm just going to use the accordion block as an example. But to access your preset, all you need to do is right-click on the block and you can go to the design section. And here in the design section, you're able to select a preset. So if you don't want to use this specific accordion block, you can, of course, change it to have the icons on the right side, or have the icons look a little bit differently depending on which accordion it is, for example. But what's really, really, really powerful as well is being able to edit that block. And by doing that, going into the padding, changing the gaps, the row gaps, adding a background color, adding a hover color, or a hover background, sorry. And then, of course, even adding like a border corner radius. So if you need to make any changes here, you can absolutely go ahead and do that, adding in any sort of thickness or changing the border color, for example. You can also change the header. So again, coming down to your fonts, your corporate identity, if this is something that you need to change, it's absolutely possible to do so. And then here, also changing the font where the text is as well. So the content. And then, of course, any changes that you make, if you're not happy with, you can always reset back to the original. So again, you kind of have that, that full control over how you want to get the setup. Now, it's important to know that the presets that you set for a specific block will be applied within that flow. So just to make sure you've set it up, you're happy with it, and then you can use the same preset throughout the specific flow. Great. So now we've spoken a little bit around the corporate identity, the branding, going a little bit deeper into that. But I mean, it's not just about brand identity. It's also about, showcasing your product and such. And this is where using the blocks such as like the image block, for example, would be an excellent opportunity to just showcase a little bit more about, your product, your offering, using this as a standalone image. These are generally very powerful blocks to be using. Again, just to make people more aware of what your offer is. And we always encourage you to add an alternative label. Not having one, it's not looking great for search engines, considered bad practice. So it's really going to help your searchability by adding in an alt label as well. And again, with the picture block, you can also change the spacing of it. You have, top, bottom sizing that you can have a play around with. You can also change the corner radius if you want to make it a little bit rounder, for example. And you can also change the size. So if you just want it to be a bit smaller as such, you can do so. And there's also alignment options as well. So another block that I also like, that I talk to a lot of customers about is using the photo carousel block. Now, the photo carousel block is a great way to showcase multiple images in a way that's a little bit more interactive, a little bit more dynamic. And again, just showcases what your product is or what your offer is. Or for example, if you're doing any recruitment, any of the companies that you've worked with, etc. So here's just a really nice way to showcase that. You can also set different slide duration. So if you want it to move a little bit slower, you can do that. Change the transition speed if you don't want there to be a loop. Again, toggle that off, the same with the autoplay. And again, you have the options to go in and set the width, whether it's small, medium, large, or widescreen. So again, lots of capabilities in there. The other block that I'd like to touch on in terms of brand and awareness is the video block. And again, really powerful using the video block. For the video block, you can utilize YouTube or Vimeo videos. So again, just, being able to provide additional trust, service offers, etc. Generally, people really enjoy and find videos quite engaging, and again, quite interactive. So you can also set the different parameters here of how you want this to be set up. You can also loop the video. Again, your prerogative, but just good to know that these features do exist in there. So moving on, we're going to jump into a little bit more around social proof, which again is really, really important. And the first topic that I would like to discuss around the social proof is around using logos. So logos, great way to, show some of the companies that you've worked with. People generally really need to see some sort of trust element there, and logos are the best way to get that set up. Again, in the logos, you have different editing capabilities, so different alignments. You can also change the height, for example, if you want it to be a little bit bigger, or if you want it to be reversed back to a little bit smaller. You can also change the gap. So if you want a further gap between the logos and such, you also have the option to add a grayscale. You can invert the colors. And then what's kind of nice here as well is that you can align dynamically on mobile. So this is really nice to see how you want to have this set up on your mobile device. So currently, this is what it would look like on mobile, but maybe you only want to have 4, 3, or 2, or again, whatever you see fit. But what's nice is everything can really be done from there, from one block, and really kind of achieve the effect that you're looking to have. So highly recommend setting up those logos, and really, we do consider this a best practice. Now, the other thing that I'd like to touch on is testimonials. And testimonials are so important when, on your landing page to really help a user, again, to feel more comfortable, confident in going through this flow, seeing the services that you're offering. It's so much is about trust. And using a testimonial will be really helpful in ensuring that that trust is created. So with that said, what I would always recommend is to use a text and image block. So again, just to show an example, you would drag and drop this in. And here, again, you have the option to really set up this as you see fit. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to use my image, is just to give you an example of, let's say, a recruiting testimonial. And again, here we can go ahead and we can change the image corner radius. So we always recommend to make it, round. Again, just kind of a best practice. And then I right now find that the text to image split is not really working for me. So I actually want to make the text a little bit bigger over here. And then again, what you can do is you can have a little play around with the vertical alignment. So depending on where you want that text to be located. And then of course, we would need to add in some information. So working at Heyflow is great, just giving an example. And then of course, who is providing this recommendation? CSM at Heyflow. Really recommend using the text and image splitter. What's nice, you can also change that the text is on the left side of the screen. However, you see fit. You can add, a background color again, just to create a little bit, make it a little bit more dynamic, make it stand out a little bit. You can change the sizing. So, if you want it a bit smaller, medium, or large, again, you have that capability in there. So this is, again, another really powerful way to share testimonials with people coming to your landing page and being able to see all the benefits that of why the user should actually go with your service or your product or your offering. Great. Now, the second last thing before we're done this demonstration is CTAs. So something that Sarah had mentioned, CTAs are super important. And here you can see that we have continue buttons throughout the screen. Now, again, as a best practice, using a sticky header for mobile is a really good idea. So what I've gone ahead and done is I have right now a header in here that says, get your free quote now. But because I do not want this on my desktop view, I'm going to change the visibility to be mobile only. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going back to our landing page. I'm going to add the header. So now in the mobile version, you can see that there's that sticky header there. So no matter where you're scrolling, they will always have that option to click now to get their free quote. So again, really important to have those CTAs set up. Make it as easy as possible. You can, of course, always add one into your desktop as well. And just to give you an example here of what that will all look like. Here we go. So again, however you see fit, but definitely make sure to have those CTAs, have them well branded. Give them some sort of offer like get your free quote now or get a free quote in less than 30 seconds or any sort of kind of promotion for that user to be able to click through and know that they're going to be getting something at the very end of it. It's super, super key. Okay, the last thing that I wanted to touch on is our templates. So let's say that you are, you don't have time, it's very busy right now, like you just want to get started and get going. We have a lot of really, really great templates that you can use. And what's nice is that you can essentially copy that screen that has the landing page and bring it into another flow. So you don't have to take time to rebuild everything from scratch. Really easy to do that. All you do is you right click and then you click copy screen. So, and then you can bring that into another part of, into another flow, for example. So this is really going to save you time, but also we're including the best practices in there as well. So if you find that, starting from scratch maybe is a bit too overwhelming for you, highly recommend to use our templates, copy the screen with the landing page and bring it into another flow. Now the same, I just want to say one last thing, the same is to be done with also the containers. So what's nice is if you've built out this beautiful container and let's say you want to bring it to another flow or to another screen, all you need to do is copy the block and then you can bring it into another screen. So again, it's just going to save you time. And there you have it.